Welcome to Reinvent Impossible, the podcast that gives you the tools to inspire your greatness and enhance your strengths. Here's your host, psychotherapist, life empowerment expert, and coach, Beverley Glazer.
So let me ask you, could you get rid of all your stuff? Can you dump the old, clean it out, throw it out, give it all away? It's a cleansing, but it's not easy. We get attached to all those things. And then there are the memories. But happiness is where you find it. And it's not because you have a lot of stuff. I'm Beverley Glazer, and I'm a therapist and empowerment expert for women over 50, boomers and beyond. And I help women find and live their purpose. And in this episode, you'll meet Judy Howard, author and lecturer, who travels the road alone with her cat, and all her worldly possessions are in her RV. Hi, Judy. Welcome. And you are really a happy camper. Where are you located now?
Well, hello, Beverly, and everyone in internet land. I'm in Quartzsite, Arizona, and it's a little town in the middle of the desert where RVers travel every year in January and enjoy the sunshine here.
That sounds amazing, because I'm up here in Canada and we are freezing. So anywhere where the sun's shining and just enjoying anywhere else, that's just absolutely wonderful. I love it. So you have all your possessions in your RV, right?
I sure do. 5 years ago, I sold everything in my house that I'd lived in for 20 years. Everything. I had an estate sale, and I kept only what I could cram into my 24-foot motorhome. Incredible.
And what possessed you to do that?
Well, I had begun writing several years before that. I used to be a dog groomer since I was 11 years old, and I sold my business, and I found my two passions were writing and traveling. And I could do my writing on the road anywhere. So I said the house was interfering with my happiness. And my things were interfering with my happiness. So I got rid of them all, and started traveling and writing.
That is such a wonderful thing to hear, because most of us look back on our memories with all our possessions, and there are so many people that are afraid to give anything away or have difficulty selling anything, or even giving it, because they're so attached. And what you did, I just want everyone to know also, you're 74 years old at a time when someone might say, I just want to relax. You got into that RV and you are alone, you're traveling with your cat, and you're just on the road, that takes an awful lot of just plain gumption. and you seem so happy.
Yes, and I wanted you to know I did give it a lot of thought, but the idea just never went away. I couldn't get rid of. Every time I came home from a trip, I was irritated by all the work I had to do, and it was in the work and taking care of things takes a lot of time, and it was interfering with my happiness time. So, and yes, it's hard to let go of it. I felt homeless for probably the first year. I told everyone I was homeless, and my daughter would say, no, your home is on wheels.
And it certainly is. Yes. You seem to be as free as a bird and so very happy right now. And there was a time in your life when it wasn't so good. You were a 16-year-old child that had a child.
Yes. Yes. I have had a few incidences in my life. Being a 16-year-old pregnant girl back in the 60s, it was not a good thing. I was shunned and dealt with that. So yes, but I'm just kind of a pantser. That's what we call it in the writing world, where you just write by the seat of your pants. No outline, no anything. And that's pretty much how I live my life. No outline, just whatever feels good, I do it.
Yes. And you got married. You married that man. and raised that child at 16. And that didn't work out. And you still, continued by the seat of your pants to continue to live your life and raise that child. And that wasn't easy. She got into drugs, and that was a difficult time.
Yes. Anytime a 16-year-old is trying to raise a child, I suppose it creates all kinds of problems. And I probably made all of the mistakes. And my daughter, became a drug addict and an alcoholic. And I felt like a failure as a mother. I became suicidal. I went through all of that. And 16 years later, we were estranged for 16 years because of all of those problems. And 16 years later, she came back into my life, and she was sober, living a good life, had a nice family, and who would have thought? But during the time we were separated, I suffered guilt, but I went on, and I just kept going on.
Yes, and it came full circle. You're
Yes.
Not only a grandmother, you're a great-grandmother now.
I'm a great-grandmother, and I believe for my husband's, my third husband, his children, I'm even a great-great-grandmother. We all started out young, I guess. But anyway, yes, life is good. I couldn't be happier.
That's so good to hear. Yes, and you were always interested in travel and always interested in being on the road, you and your husband?
Yes. We hadn't really talked about it, but it was just kind of a fluke. Actually, I had my husband was a Harley guy, and I wanted a bike of my own, although I was never a motorcycle girl. But anyway, my husband worried about me riding a bike, and anyway, he finally talked me out of it. But in the meantime, I bought a Harley. And so now I had this Harley to sell because I had decided I really didn't want to ride. And I would just ride behind him. Anyway, so we ended up at an RV dealership and was shopping. And my husband we found a motorhome that we liked. And he said, will you take a Harley for a trade-in? And they said yes. And so that's how I got my motorhome that I'm living in now. And my husband would say, he'd point to his Harley and he'd say, that's his baby. And then he would point to the motorhome and he said, that was my baby. And so true, because it still is, 16 years later. So,
yes. That's a lovely story. And not only that, you're traveling the road, you travel alone, but not really alone. You're with your cat and with your husband's ashes.
Yes. And now my sister's ashes too. But I began sprinkling his ashes out at little places that we had been when we did go in the motorhome. So he's still travels with me, and but I'm never alone. The RV lifestyle is just amazing because everywhere you go, you meet new people. And I have so many friends on Facebook nowadays because I've been doing this for so many years that I can go to any part of the country and meet friends that I've made. So it's very
wonderful. When did you first start writing? When did you get that bug, the writing bug?
Well, I started writing 10 years ago, going on 11 years. And I had mentioned that I was a dog groomer since I was 11 years old, and I had a business of my own. But I was trying to semi-retire from that, and I took a writing class. And in the writing class, I didn't take the class because 80% of the people have thought about writing a book. And I was never one who had considered writing a book, but I just took this creative writing class because I thought it would be fun. Because that's what I do. I look for fun. So anyway, I took that class, and we had a 10-minute writing exercise. And she asked us to write about the color red for 10 minutes. And I thought how stupid that is. Who could write 10 minutes about the color red? Well, anyway, but I was a good student, so I wanted to do that. And I was amazed at what was in my head. And I realized that I've always had something to say. and it was all there waiting for it to come out. Anyway, I fell in love with writing. I became addicted to it, and that's when I decided, between that and traveling, I decided to get rid of everything and just travel and write. And I love my life. I can sit out in a beautiful campground in a space where there's deer walking by, and I can go hiking in the mountains or on the ocean or whatever. It's a beautiful life.
Wonderful. So good to hear your pleasure and your enjoyment that you have out of life. So free. How many books have you written?
I've written actually now 7. There's 6 on Amazon right now, and the 7th one should be coming out this month, I'm hoping, if not the following month. And so...
What keeps you so positive?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. When I had the bout with the suicide, and anybody who's been suicidal or depressed, severely depressed, it's a very, very scary place to be. And if I rarely get there anymore, but when I feel that, I have to stop and look at myself and my life and what it is that's unpleasant for me, and I just have to readjust, update, whatever you want to call it. I do so many things just to keep myself positive, and but mainly I listen to this little inner voice that says, what is it that you want, and what do you want to do, and that's what I do.
Yes, and I'm sure that's inspiring to everybody also. It's like I'm doing what I really want to do. What tips can you give other people? Because you seem to be so happy with your lifestyle. Would you say that now is the happiest time you've ever been?
Well, yes, I would say this is the happiest I've ever been. I tell everybody, my God, if I get any happier, you'll have to scrape me off the ceiling. And I'm when I look around what's happening in the world, I struggle to stay happy these days. But again, I have such a beautiful lifestyle that I couldn't not be happy. I mean, I'm so lucky to have this. So what are the tips to staying happy? Mainly it's going within and listening to what it is you want. I think so many of us have lived doing what we're supposed to do, what we're should do. And I learned a long time ago there are no shoulds, and I don't want to be. I get stressed when I do something that I should do that I don't want to do. I mean, I do things that I should do, but again, I certainly don't make a lifestyle out of it. So
that's great. And I'd say for people listening that you are an inspiration, Judy. You really are. And very courageous. Not everybody would just pick themselves up and just go out there. Okay?
Yes.
Very courageous. Judy Howard is 74 years old. She lives on the road in her RV. Her address is wherever you want to find her. And you can always connect with Judy on Facebook. And her website is judyhowardpublishing.com. She has a blog, The Wandering Widow, and all her books can be found on Amazon, and they are bestsellers. And all these links will be on my site, reinventimpossible.com, and you can reach me at bev@reinventimpossible.com. And while you're there, get the free Worryless Workbook to sleep like a baby and leave your worries behind you. Send me questions and suggestions, and if you know a woman like Judy who can inspire others, I want to hear from you. Subscribe now so you don't miss an episode, and thank you for listening. And together, let's make the impossible possible.
Thank you for tuning in to Reinvent Impossible. For our latest podcasts, click subscribe. Contact Bev at reinventimpossible.com. Until next time, make the impossible possible.